Can the Sony A6700 handle the heat? Well, in this video, I'm going to be testing this camera to see if it really has got overheating issues. I'm a freelance videographer and I've been using this camera for a few months now. I have done a 2-month review going into detail about what this camera is like. If you are interested in buying this camera, that is a must watch. So click the card or check the pinned comment. Over the past few months, I've been getting loads of messages from people asking me if this camera does overheat. So today we're going to find out together. In my 2-month review video of this camera, I mentioned that I've not had any overheating issues, and you'll be pleased to know that is still the case. But I understand that isn't enough to go off, so I'm going to make it my goal today to try and get this camera to overheat. Will it happen easily? Will it not? Let's find out. Okay, so here's the plan. I'm going to record 422 10-bit 4K S-Log3 footage at 25 frames per second, 60 frames per second, and 120 frames per second. I'm going to record until the battery dies or it overheats. I'm going to time it so we know how long each one will take, and I'm going to be doing this in a room temperature of roughly 23 degrees Celsius. On my camera, I have got a half cage on, but it does cut off up to the battery, which is kind of where most of the heat generates anyway. It's just something to keep in mind. I'm going to be using the same battery for all of them so that it's fair, and I'll also be using a 128GB V60 SD card. The first one I do is 25 frames per second, and that is with the screen closed. And then I do it again with the screen open just to see how much of a difference that makes. Now, I live in the UK, so it's not that hot here, especially as we're about to dive into winter. I have got the heating on, so it's a lot warmer, but it's just something to bear in mind because I know that in America and other places, it's a lot hotter. But I'm doing my best to make this as fair as possible. Quickly before we start, do me a favor and like this video and subscribe to the channel. This video has taken me a long time to make and your support is very much appreciated. I have got lots of content on my channel about the Sony A6700, from reviews to accessories and video tests. So if you are interested, do check those out. Okay, let's start off with 25 frames per second with the screen in. Okay, so what I've got here is the A6500 doing a time lapse of the A6700, as you can see there, and then a timer in the background. This lasted 42 minutes and 42 seconds, which isn't great. If you want to record something like a YouTube video, this just isn't enough time. Well, just not for me anyway. I'll take like a 50-minute recording and cut it down to like 7 minutes, which is low-key kind of embarrassing. Let's see how this compares to how I film videos, and that is with the screen flipped out. And there it goes. Battery has died. We're gonna have to pause it and see what time exactly that was. It lasted a whopping 1 hour and 37 minutes. That's almost an extra hour if you record with the screen flipped out. It only shut off because the battery died, which is pretty damn epic, and I'm pretty sure if you swapped the battery over, it would just keep recording. I guess the lesson here is if you want to record something for a long time, make sure you do it with the screen flipped out, because this will drastically change how much more recording time you get. Moving on to 60 frames per second. I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit disappointed with how long this lasted before it overheated. It managed 17 minutes and 2 seconds. However, you need to think of it like this. What on earth are you filming at 60 frames per second for 17 minutes? Obviously there are special cases, but come on. I've been doing this for many years and I've never had to do anything like that. Maybe food videography, but even then I'm not convinced. If you need to film long form slow motion, long form being longer than 15 minutes, then this probably isn't the camera for you. Lastly, we have 120 frames per second. It lasted 8 minutes and 28 seconds. Not bad, but not great. If you do shoot 120 frames per second, it is unlikely that you will need to shoot for longer than 2 minutes. Maybe you will, but realistically it's not going to be longer than a few seconds. My honest thoughts are, yes, it isn't great, but how the camera works for me. I've not had any overheating issues. It has taken me to make this video for the camera to even overheat. So does this camera overheat? Well, in short, yes, but if you take precautions like swapping the batteries out or flipping the LCD screen, then you will get a lot more recording time. I guess you shouldn't really need to do this. You should be able to just buy a camera and have it work however you need it to. So I guess take this however you want. My personal opinion is that When the camera first came out, I feel like a lot of people noticed it didn't have a fan, so they immediately boycotted the camera. But I'll tell you from experience with this camera that overheating really isn't as much of an issue as people were making it out to be when the camera dropped. This is the first time that my camera has overheated. Maybe that's because I take the appropriate precautions to avoid it from overheating. Maybe that's something that you'll have to do as well. I know that the test I've done today isn't airtight fair. I hope this video hasn't rustled too many feathers. Another thing to say is that in my 2-month review, I talk about how I only ever bring this camera with me on a shoot as long as I have a B cam. That has now changed. I now only bring this camera. I guess it had to prove itself to me. 93.3% of my viewers are not subscribed. That means only 6.7% of you are. I have a goal, and that is to turn that 6.7% into 10% within the next 6 months. If you have liked any of my content, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It means the absolute world to me. 3 weeks ago, I started this goal, and I think we were at 2.5%, and it's not even been a month, and we're over halfway. It's just insane to me. So thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. Have a great rest of your day or evening, and I'll see you in the next video.